Nobody asked. I looked anyway. The bloop. The sound that stopped hydrophone operators in their tracks. In 1997, an ultra-low frequency noise rolled across the Pacific. It was so loud it registered on sensors thousands of miles apart. Scientists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration first debated ice origin, then animal origin, then ice again. Nobody settled it. The recording looks like a single giant event. Icequakes do happen. Massive ice can grind and pop and make deep, low rumbles. But the bloop's frequency and amplitude are odd enough that some acousticians privately say it could match a very large biological source. Two questions come out of that. What kind of animal could make such a sound and not show up on any net or camera? Or do our models of ice noise miss a class of events we rarely see? Most marine biologists avoid the louder speculation. It invites sea monster headlines and it makes the work look unscientific. Still, the recording sits in the archive. It cut through the static like a single drumbeat from the deep and then faded, leaving nothing to compare it to. Acoustic experts compared the waveform to known ice events and to animal calls and found pieces that fit both. Ice can make long, low notes when shelves flex or when giant bergs grind the sea floor. Animals can also produce low-energy pulses if their anatomy uses pressure changes rather than vocal cords. The trouble is sampling. We have audio sensors on cables and a handful of autonomous recorders. We have spotty visual coverage and nets that miss fast or rare animals. That means a loud, unexplained noise can sit in the archive for decades because the data needed to decide are missing. Scientists who work with these recordings learn to live with uncertainty. They publish models and caveats instead of dramatic claims. To the public, it looks like stonewalling. To other scientists, it looks like doing the job right. Still, imagine if the sound did come from a living thing we had never identified. It would force a rethink of biomass, migration, and food webs. It would also force hard questions about how we search and what we accept as proof. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. In 2011, a Swedish dive crew called Ocean X was scanning the floor of the Gulf of Bothnia for old shipwrecks. Their sonar picked up a shape that made everyone on the boat stop talking. A flat disk about 60 meters across sitting 90 meters below the surface. The image showed hard, angular edges, what looked like archways and pillars, and a 300-meter trail behind the object as if it had slid or been dragged across the seabed. News reports compared it to the Millennium Falcon. That comparison stuck. When divers went down, their satellite phones stopped working near the object. Cameras failed. Rock samples brought to the surface were mostly granites and sandstones you would expect in a glacially scraped basin. But one came back as basalt, volcanic rock. That does not belong on a glacial seabed. Geologists said glaciers did this. Ice Age glaciers can grind bedrock, dump rubble, and create angular shapes that fool the eye and the sonar. Add cheap equipment that was probably miscalibrated, and you get distorted images that make a rock outcrop look designed. That should close the case. But the electronics failures were never explained, and the volcanic sample sits in a box without a satisfying answer. In 2024, a group claimed high-resolution image processing showed geometric patterns that do not match any known geological process. That work is unverified. Most geologists stay out of it. Call it a rock, and your inbox fills with angry emails from people who want it to be a spacecraft. Call it strange, and you end up quoted next to alien conspiracy channels. So nobody says much. The disk sits in cold Baltic water, classified as geology, surrounded by questions geology has not fully closed. Deep sea gigantism. A camera drops into a Pacific trench, and an isopod the size of a football crawls past the lens. In another feed, a Japanese spider crab spreads nearly 4 meters across a rocky ledge. In 2025, the colossal squid was filmed alive for the first time. These animals are enormous, and nobody can fully explain why. Scientists call it abyssal gigantism. Deep creatures routinely dwarf their shallow water relatives, and it has been documented across crustaceans, squid, jellyfish, and fish. 6 theories compete for the answer. Cold water slows metabolism, so animals live longer and keep growing. Scarce food rewards bigger bodies that store more energy between meals. Fewer predators means less pressure to stay small. Cold water holds more dissolved oxygen, so tissues can support larger frames. Low gravity in water means size costs less energy. And isolation drives evolution in directions it would not go on a crowded reef. All six make sense on paper. None of them holds up under every test. A team studying Antarctic sea spiders tested the oxygen idea directly, and the results came back wrong. Larger specimens handled low oxygen just as well as smaller ones. That should not have happened. If the best theory has a hole in it, the whole question reopens. Climate change makes this urgent. Warmer oceans weaken the deep circulation that delivers cold, oxygen-rich water to the abyss. The conditions that may allow giant life could weaken within a few generations. But say any of this out loud, and the megalodon crowd shows up. Sea monster clickbait follows. A serious scientist can lose credibility just by being honest about the gaps. So most publish the data, note the uncertainty, and avoid the microphone. The giants keep growing. The theories keep falling short. Deep-sea mining, oxygen risk. You picture machines scraping nodules from an ocean plane and think jobs and progress. But there is a quieter chain reaction most people never hear about. Removing nodules disturbs sediment that holds carbon and microbes. Sediment plumes drift and settle. Those plumes can smother animals and release metals locked in the mud. In some abyssal plains, recent studies recorded local drops in oxygen when food and sediment patterns changed. Oxygen matters because many deep creatures live near the edge. If oxygen falls, corals, worms, and slow-growing animals can die or stop reproducing. Scientists model these effects and still cannot predict recovery times. Industry says careful mining and monitoring will limit harm. Other researchers warn we lack the baseline data needed to manage risk. The International Seabed Authority moves slowly and politics complicate science. Many marine biologists stay cautious. If you push too hard against industry, you can lose access to ships and funding. If you stay quiet too long, habitats may be gone before anyone measures what was there. The result is careful papers and too little public urgency about a risk that could take decades to show itself. They quietly point to a second, slower danger. Disturbing the seafloor can change tiny chemical cycles that control oxygen and carbon. When sediment plumes rise, they carry fine particles and metals that alter microbial communities. Those microbes help bury carbon and regenerate oxygen. If we shift their balance, oxygen levels can fall and the seafloor can become a quieter, poorer place. Some studies already show local oxygen drops after major disturbances. Recovery can take decades or centuries. That is not an exaggeration. Many deep corals and sponges grow at a pace measured in centuries. Once you remove their home, a generation of animals vanishes with it. Scientists call for far more baseline maps and long-term monitoring before any large-scale extraction begins. The International Seabed Authority faces a hard choice. Regulate now with strict limits, or delay while more science is done. Many researchers prefer delay. They worry that commercial pressure will outpace the slow, careful work needed to understand the ocean. The deep sea floor holds more carbon and chemistry than we have mapped. Disturb it without knowing what you are moving, and the consequences do not show up for decades. Bioluminescent language. You're drifting in a dark column of water, and suddenly the sea lights up in quick flashes, like a secret signal from a town you did not know existed. Researchers once treated those flashes as tricks for hunting or hiding. Now, studies suggest a richer picture. Many animals use distinct flash patterns that act like names or calls. Some fish and shrimp have private flashes that only a few species see. Scientists have even found that species with unique light patterns tend to split into new species faster. That matters because it means light can shape evolution in the dark. That is where it gets awkward. Most of our observations come from shining a human light and watching what happens. That can change behavior. We might be interrupting conversations we barely understand. Some biologists quietly warn that our lamps and ROV lights could scramble signals or trigger defensive flashes. Publicly, they report the facts and the functions. Privately, they worry that every dive rewrites a little of the deep sea's private language. Are we studying these animals or talking over them? Scientists have begun to map flashes as signals rather than random sparks. Field recordings show repeatable patterns that happen at precise times in short sequences. In some species, those sequences act like an identity card. That helps mates find each other in total dark and keeps different populations from mixing. The idea that light is a language changes how we interpret behavior. It means our bright spotlights and camera strobes are not neutral. They can trigger alarm flashes and alter mating calls. It also means removing or disturbing populations can erase flash dialects that took millennia to develop. Conservation down there means more than head counts. Those flash patterns may take millennia to form, and one trawl can erase them. The work to decode light patterns is slow. It needs long-term recording, better sensors, and collaboration across labs. But the payoff is real. Read a species right, and you can predict migrations and mating times. Get it wrong, and we may wipe out a communication system before we even knew it was there. Hydrothermal vents and alien metabolisms. You hover above a black smoker, and hot water punches out of the sea floor like steam from a kettle hidden beneath miles of water. In 1977, researchers found entire communities living on that heat and the chemicals it brings, not on sunlight. Bacteria strip energy from hydrogen sulfide and metal-rich fluids and build food webs that feed tube worms, snails, and shrimp. Those microbes use chemistry we do not see on the surface. That means vents are full of novel enzymes and metabolic tricks that science is only starting to catalogue. The exciting side is huge. New compounds from vents have already inspired medicines and industrial enzymes. The awkward side is just as big. When a microbe's chemistry looks valuable, commercial partners appear. That brings patents, secrecy, and questions about who owns knowledge from the deep. Some biologists hold back speculative language until peer review because claims can drive a rush of private control or premature exploitation. So they publish carefully, often waiting for replication and ethics review before saying too much. Every new vent find puts scientists in the same spot. Share what you found, or watch someone else patent it. Those microbes hold secrets that could save lives or cause real damage. In lab tests, vent enzymes break down molecules surface chemistry cannot touch. That makes them prime candidates for new medicines and industrial tools. At the same time, a discoverable compound can be patented and locked behind corporate walls. Scientists face a real choice: share data fast and risk private control, hold results for careful review and risk losing funding or letting industry rush ahead. There is another risk. Novel metabolisms mean novel ecologies. Disturbing a vent field with drilling or even heavy sampling could release chemicals or microbes into places they never were before. The scientific community prefers peer review and replication first. Policymakers prefer simple rules and clear numbers. Neither is ready for the messy middle. The sensible path is slow, open, and global. Map first. Share samples and methods. Build ethical rules with the people who live near the sea and with nations that have rights under international law. The vents have already given us compounds we did not know were possible. We can study them, or we can gut them. Right now, the money favors gutting. Unexplained sonar anomalies. A recorder deep on a cable picks up a steady ping that does not match any known whale, earthquake, or ice event. Operators flag it. Scientists run models. The pattern refuses easy answers. The ocean is full of human noise. Naval exercises, classified systems, towed arrays, and secret sensors all add signals that look natural when metadata is stripped away. When file notes are redacted or missing, researchers cannot rule out human sources. That gap creates a problem. Scientists who suggest a military link risk stepping into geopolitics. Scientists who ignore the possibility risk mislabeling human activity as a natural mystery. So the cautious choice is to publish measured analyses and ask for more transparent data. But transparency is not always possible. The result is a polite silence in public forums and technical papers that bury uncertainty in long method sections. The hard question is, who controls the microphones under the sea? And how much of what we call mystery is actually classified noise? And the sea keeps testing our machines. Pressure tears at electronics. Salt eats metal. Radio waves die in water, so real-time data is hard. For years, we accepted that and worked around it. Now AUVs and long-duration drones change the game. They map, they hover for weeks, they share maps when they surface. That means we can finally see vast areas we never knew existed. The problem is cost and access. Building and running these systems takes millions and big ships. That concentrates exploration in wealthy labs and corporations. Many nations and early career scientists never get a turn. The result is slow science and uneven knowledge. Cheaper sensors, shared platforms, and open data could change that, but the shift is not happening fast enough. Simple, robust vehicles and better software can spread capability to small institutions and island nations. We can build technology to protect the deep or to mine it faster. Right now, most of it is being built for the second option, milky seas. Sailors have written about this for over 400 years. A night watch on a calm ocean, and suddenly the water around the ship turns white. Not flashing, not sparking. A steady, even glow across the entire surface as far as anyone can see. Like floating over a snowfield. Most accounts were filed under hallucination or exhaustion. Then satellites proved the sailors right. In 2019, a patch of glowing ocean off Java stretched across 100,000 square kilometers. NOAA sensors detected it from orbit. At the same time, the crew of a yacht called Ganesha photographed it from the deck. That was the first confirmation from both angles at once. The glow comes from bacteria. Trillions of a species called Vibrio havii packed into the water column, producing a soft, continuous light. Not the quick flashes you get from disturbed plankton, a constant glow that can last days or weeks. What nobody can explain is why it starts. No one knows what conditions trigger a bloom that massive, or what flips the switch for trillions of microbes to light up at the same time. Scientists cannot even agree on whether a milky sea means the water is thriving or collapsing. One idea says the bacteria glow on purpose to attract fish. Inside a fish gut, they find warmth and food. The light is bait. That would make it one of the strangest survival tricks in biology, but nobody has tested it in open water. The practical problem is access. You need a research ship in a remote stretch of the Indian Ocean during a rare, unpredictable event. These things mostly happen near Somalia and off Java, and they vanish on their own schedule. By the time a vessel gets there, the glow is usually gone. So the data stays thin. Scientists know how it sounds when they talk about glowing oceans the size of a country that they cannot explain. They keep the language careful. The glowing does not wait for their caution. Unidentified submerged objects. There is declassified Navy infrared footage that shows a dark sphere crossing the frame fast, then dropping below the waterline. No splash, no wake, no deceleration. The Pentagon confirmed the footage is genuine. In 2004, pilots off the USS Nimitz tracked a smooth white object the size of a large jet that moved between air and water without slowing down. In 2014, a fighter squadron off Virginia Beach watched objects hover at altitude, drop to the ocean surface, and shoot back up at speeds that made no aerodynamic sense. No heat signature, no visible engine. In 2019, cameras on the USS Omaha caught a sphere entering the water clean, while ship radar showed several unknown contacts circling for hours. The military now calls these unidentified anomalous phenomena. Retired Rear Admiral Timothy Gallaudet, a career Navy oceanographer, has said publicly that objects moving between air and water are a real and underestimated security problem. The reports keep adding up. A civilian tracking app called Enigma has logged thousands of sightings near American coastlines since late 2022. California and Florida top the list. The waters near Catalina Island keep showing up as a repeat location. The Pentagon runs an office called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office to sort through the cases. Most turn out to be drones, balloons, or sensor glitches. A small percentage stay unexplained. For marine scientists, this is a no-win conversation. Bring up USOs at a conference and you get polite smiles. Put them in a paper and a reviewer will question your judgment. But ignoring the sonar data and sensor logs means skipping real observations because the subject makes people uncomfortable. That is not how science is supposed to work. Papers on ocean acoustics bury the strange contacts in their data tables. Nobody highlights them. Nobody explains them. The readings sit in plain sight, filed as background noise by the people trained to interpret them. Dark oxygen feedbacks. You watch a sensor line blink and realize the deep is breathing differently than it did 10 years ago. Scientists measure gradual oxygen declines in some abyssal areas and link those drops to surface warming and shifts in particle rain from the sunlit zone. That is the accepted story, and it is supported by models and repeated observations. But some researchers whisper the harder possibility. Disturb the seafloor through mining or large-scale trawling, and buried carbon and metals can be unearthed. Microbes may switch gears and consume more oxygen while releasing carbon dioxide. Combined with warming and acidification, this could create semi-permanent low-oxygen patches that change who survives on the seafloor. Models disagree on timing and scale. Nobody claims a sudden apocalypse.
Still, the risk is real and slow. Marine biologists argue we need far more baseline maps, long-term observatories, and strict protection for vulnerable sites. Study first, protect now. Some funding agencies call that stalling. The scientists who say it call it the minimum. The next steps are simple to name and hard to fund. Map the seafloor in better detail. Place long-term observatories that track oxygen, chemistry, and life. Get low-cost sensors and shared survey fleets into the hands of more nations, so the picture is not drawn by 3 wealthy countries alone. Make the data open and make it fast. Any large-scale mining or extraction should require real baseline studies first, not promises of careful monitoring after the machines are already running. Scientists are not trying to block progress. They are asking for enough information to know what progress will cost. Right now, the evidence says the risk is real, and we do not understand it well enough to manage it. Slowing down is not the popular answer. It might be the correct one. Which of these 10 theories worries you most? Tell us below.